In a world where humanity has been driven from the land by demonic creatures ruling the skies, hope rests solely in the hands of the few wizards who possess the power to fly. But even among these airborne heroes, some have fallen from grace. Our protagonist, Kanateg, was once a legendary black swordsman, an unrivaled prodigy who risked everything on the battlefield. Yet despite his heroism, he was branded a traitor and cast aside. Now he spends his days as a student in the division of celestial magicians, doing his best to keep a low profile. Everything changes when he's suddenly chosen to become the instructor for Squad E601, the absolute worst squad in the entire academy. Among the squad members, there's Msora, the self-proclaimed leader. Proud and stubborn, with more heart than aim, she desperately wants to be the best, but can't even land a single shot. Still, something in her eyes screams she refuses to give up. Then there's Letty, quiet, shy, almost invisible, but on the battlefield, she moves like lightning. Her swordsmanship is feared when she can bring herself to use it. The real problem isn't her power, it's her fear. The fear of failure, of letting others down, and her overwhelming shyness. Finally, we meet Rico Flamel, a self-declared goddess. She speaks like a noble, acts like a star, and looks down on everyone else. But behind that facade is a lonely, fragile girl starving for recognition. Our protagonist was helping another student in a warehouse, and his work was incredibly efficient. He finished in just one night what would take 10 people 3 days. After helping out, Kanata is informed that the leader of the Celestial Wizards Division wants to see him in her office at lunchtime. Kanata walks calmly, on time for his classes, but on his way he collides with a redhead. This student is Msora, and she's upset because the accident with Kanata ruined her breakfast. She gets so angry that she calls him a pervert. But by the time Msora realizes, Kanata has already disappeared. After the accident, Kanata goes to wash his pants. But the jam stain won't come out no matter what he tries. While there, Kanata notices a student looking at herself in the mirror, talking to herself. When the girl realizes Kanata is there, she approaches him and asks if he's fascinated by her beauty. Kanata says he was just curious about her eccentric behavior. This girl is Rico Flamel. She calls Kanata a stalker. She even claims to be the reincarnation of a goddess. However, when she notices Kanata's missing pants, she freaks out, starts calling him a pervert, and yells for help. But again, by the time she realizes, Kanata is already gone. Meanwhile, Kanata hid in the bathrooms, thinking this situation stinks because the same thing just happened with 2 girls, both calling him a pervert. But hold on, the third one's coming. Just as Kanata was about to leave the bathroom, he ran into another girl. This one is Letty, who's very shy and had a hard time telling Kanata she was in the girl's bathroom. She gets scared and asks him if he's a pervert. Of course, she starts screaming. Kanata vanishes again. He regrets taking the shortcut to school. As soon as he arrives, every student calls him a traitor. Literally everyone thinks badly of him, including one girl who was waiting for him. Her name is Yuri. She tells him he can't even control his own time and that he really is a traitor. Kanata asks if she still has any hope for him. She replies no and says it's a waste of time when it comes to him. But Yuri is clearly upset. Then Chloe arrives, telling Yuri not to start a fight with Kanata, but Yuri just gets more upset. However, Kanata expected Yuri to get angrier since she enrolled in this school because she wanted to be with him. So Kanata thinks she must be hurting. He says it's been over 6 months since that incident. Chloe explains Yuri was unconscious when it happened, so she didn't see anything. Chloe also knows Kanata was hurt too. Kanata replies that he guesses those who get injured in a battle are the ones who weren't capable of coming out unscathed. Still, Chloe feels responsible, so she has an offer for him. She takes Kanata to meet the leader of the Celestial Wizards Division. The leader calls Kanata a traitor and tells him he has a lot of nerve coming here, but she called him to give him a lesson. She wants Kanata to become an instructor and tells him he'll be in charge of Squad E601, the worst squad in the entire school. Kanata wonders why it has to be him. He thinks there must be plenty of others besides him. Chloe replies that everyone else is busy this season. Besides, Chloe wants Kanata to take charge of this. Kanata doesn't quite understand, but Chloe says she knows perfectly well that he works harder than anyone else when no one is watching. With no other choice, Kanata eventually accepts. Meanwhile, the 3 girls are gathered in a room, talking about how they ran into a pervert this morning. And what a surprise they're in for when they find out that the same pervert from the morning will now be their instructor. Just then, Kanata walks into the room and introduces himself. Msora immediately recognizes him as Kanata, the traitor. But she says that despite being the infamous traitor, above all else, he's a pervert. Here, all 3 girls call poor Kanata a pervert, even drawing their weapons at the same time. Kanata just wonders if any of them are actually listening to him. Msora asks Kanata how he ended up becoming their instructor. Kanata tells them not to worry about the details and that they need to move forward. Msora accuses him, betting that he hasn't even properly read the reports and simply showed up here driven by his perverted desires. Kanata proves her wrong, telling her his name, what grade he's in, and that his report card shows his learning grades are at the practical encounter level, so much so that he was even recommended to leave the school voluntarily. Msora says that skills can't be measured by exams, but Kanata finds that hard to believe. Rico Flamel interrupts, saying Msora is like a bush, so her grades aren't surprising. Rico tries to introduce herself just in case, but Kanata gets ahead of her. He tells her his name, what high school department he belongs to, and adds that all his grades are currently below average because of unfinished homework. However, she had an F on her practical exam, which is supposed to be the lowest grade. Kanata wonders how Rico managed to score an F buys. She replies she couldn't keep her hair tied up that day, so she just ran away. And lastly, there's Letty. Her grades are terrible too, almost competing with Msora's. Her practical exams are unstable, sometimes losing and sometimes winning against the same opponent. Once Kanata proves he actually read up on them, he wants to start the class. Msora stops him. She says she won't let a traitor like Kanata be their instructor. Letty wonders, why a traitor? Msora explains she heard that about 6 months ago, Kanata fought some evil beetles and somehow managed to come back safe. But since then, he's turned into a coward, always running away from his special missions. There are even rumors that Kanata skipped the most important competition that was supposed to take his team to S rank. So after constantly betraying everyone's expectations, the nickname he got was traitor. That's why Msora says they can't let an irresponsible man like him be their instructor. Kanata tells her she can send her complaints to the leader of the Celestial Wizards Division. Still, Kanata asks if she's not embarrassed that she hasn't won a simple competition yet. Msora admits she is embarrassed because she wants to become a full-fledged Celestial Wizard. That's why she feels she can't waste her time. Rico thinks Kanata's words are wrong, since she believes she's been considered a reincarnation of a goddess since birth. Letty says she's no slouch when it comes to training either. Kanata asks Msora if she knew he used to be called the Black Swordsman Chrono. She says yes, she's heard that rumor. Kanata replies that this master will train her, even telling her that if she does well, she might become as strong as him or maybe even surpass him. Kanata also asks her to imagine herself defeating high-level squads one after another, making a dramatic contribution to the battle against the devil beetles. The three girls start daydreaming about this. Kanata then asks Msora what she thinks about it. Msora responds that if he insists so much, then maybe she'll play along just this once. Rico, seeing herself as a goddess, objects. She understands that someone mortal like Msora has to train, but wonders why she has to do it too. Rico underestimates both girls, saying neither of them has achieved any results. Msora gets angry and tells Rico they should settle this outside. Rico puts out her foot, saying she's already outside, which infuriates Msora. Still, Kanata talks to Rico about her exam. Since she scored an F, Rico wonders what that means. She thinks there's no need for her to take exams, but Kanata has never seen her skills firsthand. So based on the data he has, Kanata has to consider her equal or even inferior to Msora forever. Kanata asks if that's okay. Rico doesn't like the sound of that. Kanata tells her he can show her his skills during training. Annoyed, Rico responds that she'll reluctantly show her amazing abilities, but only once. However, she warns Kanata to be careful and not to let her incredible performance make him fall in love with her. Finally, there's Letty. As always, she's shy and nervous, so she just apologizes. Msora encourages Letty and brings her over to Kanata. Letty says she'll do her best and asks him to please let her join the training. Meanwhile, Chloe and Yuri are having tea. Yuri asks if Kanata is still being treated like he's on leave. Chloe replies that this is the official treatment. She explains that Kanata isn't ready for a real mission yet and tells Yuri that Kanata has now become the instructor of a rank E squad. Yuri doesn't understand why this is happening, since she says Kanata doesn't attend his squad, spends his time helping with logistics, and now is an instructor. She wonders how they can allow him to be so selfish. Chloe asks Yuri not to speak badly of Kanata, since defending this place is their duty as celestial wizards. Kanata is sure that Kanata feels the same way. Kanata took the girls to the sky. Rico realizes that Kanata isn't using flight magic, but a flying tool. This angers Msora because she thinks Kanata is implying he doesn't need to fly properly when he's with them. Kanata replies that considering both their skills, that would be possible. Msora indignantly asks what kind of training they're going to do. Kanata explains that today's training is called Onagoko. The girls are surprised because Onagoko is training for beginners who have just learned to fly. Kanata asks if they chose such a basic training to test their divine abilities. Even shy Letty asks Kanata to train them more properly. Kanata almost forgot that, but also tells them they can use their arcane alchemy weapons to attack him. If they manage to defeat Kanata, the training will be over. With that said, the training begins. Kanata starts flying fast. Msora is the first to follow, Letty behind her. Riko thinks it's too soon to follow a target without a plan. Kanata realizes they have no teamwork at all. Kanata admits that Msora's speed is decent. Msora believes she can catch Kanata alone. He keeps accelerating like it's nothing. He also notices Msora's great stamina. Msora tells him she'll wait until he's ready, as she's not gentle with traitors. Msora summons her magical cannon sword. She tries to attack Kanata with the sword, but he easily dodges. Seeing Msora's poor moves, Kanata advises her to use finer movements instead of just swinging wildly. Msora tries again, attempting to get closer to Kanata while asking if he's afraid. Kanata performs a trick to hide from Msora, who can't find him. At that moment, Kanata realizes Msora was surprised by a simple feint. Then Kanata senses a presence. It's Letty behind him. Calmly, Kanata turns and asks her what her weapon's name is. Letty replies they're called Jabakiri hands. Kanata analyzes that if she had tried to strike when his back was turned, she might have succeeded. He tells Letty she shouldn't doubt herself. Kanata blocks Letty's attack after she charges. Letty can't look Kanata in the eyes, which makes her nervous and causes her to make very clumsy moves. Kanata wonders how she can be so unaware. While fighting her, Kanata concludes that her movements are refined and her reflexes great, but she seems a bit lost. Maybe she doesn't trust her skills, since she even got nervous and started apologizing. Meanwhile, Riko summons her weapon, Athena. She aims at Kanata and fires a big true planabas. Kanata detected it just in time, so he turned around, grabbed Letty to save her, and cut the magic bullet in half. Kanata realizes that Riko isn't just all talk, as that was a good shot but also easy to dodge. Riko doesn't understand what Kanata means. He explains that her aim wasn't bad, but her intent to kill was too obvious. Kanata is surprised they teamed up, so he asks how it came to that. Riko replies that compared to Msora, who just does whatever she wants, Letty's movements are very refined. Kanata is told by Riko that it makes sense she synced with Letty to land a good shot. Kanata asks why. If she thinks so much, she didn't consider friendly fire. Since her attack could have hit Letty, Riko, considering herself a goddess, doesn't care about the lives of mere humans. Kanata notices that Riko's traits are unusual. Meanwhile, Msora keeps searching for Kanata, but fails to find him. She even wonders where he went. By the end of the day, Msora is frustrated that the three girls couldn't catch him. On the other hand, Kanata thinks these puzzle pieces have strange shapes. Kanata also thinks that if he manages to fit the pieces together, it could be fun. The next morning, Kanata informs them that today's special training will be tough, reminding them that getting stronger isn't easy. Riko, with her goddess ego, has no intention of joining the training. She tells them to do whatever they want and leaves the room. Her companions try to stop her, but Kanata tells them to leave her alone. He focuses on the other two girls and asks if they're ready for training. Both say yes. Kanata takes Letty shopping. She's trying on a mate suit. She wonders if they really have to spend the team's budget on this. Kanata says it's important. At that moment, he hands Letty some flyers and tells her that today's training is to deliver the flyers while wearing that suit. Letty feels very embarrassed when she hears this. However, she tries, shyly attempting to hand the first flyer to some students. But her shyness gets the better of her, and she can't say a single word. Letty is walking by when three students pass by. The boys are surprised to see her mate suit and quickly approach her. Although Letty is very nervous about the situation, she takes the chance to try handing out a flyer, and luckily they accept it. They thank her and walk away. Letty is very happy to have succeeded. Meanwhile, Msora will have to find Riko's weakness, since everyone has one or two. Kanata says that even though Riko acts like she's great, she surely has a surprising weakness. Kanata covers Msora's mouth to stop her from saying anything just as Riko walks by, preventing Msora from denying the mission. Once Riko passes, Kanata sends Msora on the mission. Msora starts following Riko, but Riko quickly notices her and appears behind her, asking what she's doing. Msora is surprised, wondering how Riko found out. The answer is simple. It was her reflexes. Msora tries to explain, but Riko tells her not to worry, guessing she was probably just bored. Unfortunately, Riko has some shopping to do, but before leaving, Msora asks if Riko can accompany her. Riko grabs Msora's cheeks, leaving her wondering what she's doing. Riko was worried someone might have cast an illusion spell and that this wasn't the real Msora, so she questions why Msora suddenly cares about what she's doing. In any case, Riko doesn't really care and tells Msora to follow her anyway. Letty returns to Kanata and hands him the last flyer, showing she managed to deliver them all. At first, Letty was very nervous, but after successfully handing out the first flyer, she gathered some courage and achieved her goal. Kanata congratulates her but says it's time for the next step, as this place needs workers. He wishes Letty good luck and leaves. Letty is mortified and thinks she can't do it because there are too many people. Meanwhile, Riko is buying a philosophy book. Msora can't believe she's buying that, finding it boring. Riko replies that she doesn't understand the fun in chasing happiness and thinks Msora is still a child. After visiting several stores, Riko is delighted by a sheep plush toy she found. Upon seeing Msora, Riko quickly lets go of the plush and says that's enough, time is precious and they need to use it efficiently. Seeing this, Msora wonders if liking cute things is not actually a weakness. Letty is trying to repeat an order to a group of students, but she's so nervous she struggles to speak. The students start joking, which makes Letty shy and run away. She becomes very sad, almost crying, thinking she couldn't do it. At that moment, Msora appears. She asks Letty what she's doing there. Letty hugs Msora and starts crying. After calming her down, Msora wonders how this can be special training. Letty asks if her training was more normal. Msora replies, maybe more so than hers. However, Msora tells Letty if there's anything she can help with, not to hesitate to say so. Letty accepts her offer. Msora plays the role of a bunny girl since Kanata only had these two suits. Because of Msora's suit, many students crowd to place their orders. Letty notices that Msora can take orders from many students at once without being nervous. A student asks Letty for a glass of water. When trying to fill the glass, Letty starts shaking. The student asks if she has trouble speaking with people. Letty apologizes after spilling a little water. Letty is told by a student that if she finds something difficult in any way, it might be her weakness. He also tells her not to worry and to trust her instructor. He adds that she has a great friend to follow as an example. Realizing that Msora is working hard, Letty feels motivated and better from the student's words, but before she can thank him, he's already gone. A girl asks Letty for a coffee. At first she hesitates and gets a bit nervous, but then she remembers Msora and gathers courage to fulfill the order. Thanks to Msora's example, Letty starts working steadily and is noticeably different. Even Msora notices, asking what's happening because Letty seems more lively. Letty confesses it's thanks to Msora. Msora can't understand but tells her to keep it up. At the end of the day, Msora and Letty go to Kanata. Msora asks what kind of training this was, while Letty asks if he knew she has social anxiety. Letty's magic style is double swords, created by the swordmaster Albert Eisenach. Letty is surprised Kanata knows about her family. Kanata says only those who have undergone rigorous training and proven themselves with real skill can use the Eisenach name. He explains that yesterday when they were playing hide and seek, if Letty had kept her eyes on him, it would have been a good fight, but because she couldn't look him in the eyes, she couldn't use her full potential. She confesses she has never been able to make eye contact or go where many people can see her without getting nervous. Letty hates herself for being like that. Kanata tells her not to worry, saying no one in the world is satisfied with themselves. He adds that now she knows what she needs to fix. The rest will be easy. She just has to try to improve. Letty excitedly agrees and thanks Msora, saying she was able to push herself because Msora was there. Kanata then asks Msora how she did. Msora admits she failed to find any weakness, although she was surprised that Riko reads difficult philosophy but also likes cute things. Kanata praises her progress, which Msora doesn't fully understand. Since both worked hard today, Kanata rewards them with ice cream. Letty is very happy, but Msora isn't satisfied because she knew nothing about Riko aside from her weakness. Msora also didn't know Letty had stage fright, so she thinks she failed as team leader. Kanata tells her she learned that she has much to learn, which is progress. He tells Letty to keep going and keep training as she did today. Msora says she'll follow Riko more, but Kanata says today's training was to clarify Msora's weakness and overcoming it will require another type of exercise. Kanata is calm in his room, but sneaks into the boys' dormitory, saying he can't enter like this. Kanata is analyzing Msora and says her magic reserves are greater than Rangwa's, but she is bad with the sword, which wastes her potential. Chloe asks if Kanata has already planned what to do with her, and indeed the next day Kanata informs Msora that she will change from Magic Sword Cannon Vanguard to Magic Cannon Center. Kanata tells her she has no talent in sword use, but has impressive flight magic and magical power reserves. Kanata explains he has decided to make better use of her talents. Msora responds that she can't do anything no matter what, even to get stronger. She's unwilling to change. Kanata tells her to stop being selfish. He explains the magic sword cannon is too unbalanced, outdated, and difficult for a beginner. Msora says she's not being selfish and that she's giving her best, so she doesn't intend to change her style. Kanata replies he doesn't know how much she's trained, but says putting in the same effort will only bring the same results. Msora, furious, responds that she was wrong, and for a moment thought Kanata was a decent instructor. She also tells him that he knows nothing about her, and to stop deciding what she should do. After saying this, Msora leaves the class in anger. Then a flashback shows a redhead battling with a sword. She is extremely skilled in combat, and it turns out she is Sosia Witale, Msora's mother. She goes to the cemetery to visit her mother's grave. She remembers what happened in Kanata's class and is very upset, but she doesn't plan to give up. Meanwhile, Letty continues her training. She goes to deliver coffee and meets the blonde boy from the other day, who tells her she has improved. After delivering the coffee, Letty encounters Rico. She follows her and invites her to train together. But as usual, Rico rejects her and says a goddess like her has no time to sweat in training. Letty replies that Msora hasn't come to school for days and that she doesn't know what to do alone. Rico thinks Letty isn't the person she should ask and says that as a goddess, she's above these problems. Letty replies that she'll have to depend on Kanata then. Rico says it seems Letty thinks very highly of that traitor. Letty admits that at first she was a little worried, but now she knows Kanata seriously cares about her. While Letty talks, Rico thinks it's not easy to get Letty to say that or wear the suit she's wearing. Yuri goes to talk to Kanata, complaining that he hasn't trained the girls lately. Kanata asks how she knows that. Yuri replies that Squad E601 hasn't requested to use the training airspace, so she found out. Kanata asks if she has something better to do. Yuri angrily says he's the only special squad member who has free time. She also says she was just worried he might betray those girls too. Kanata says goodbye because he has to go on a visit and can't waste time. Yuri tries to stop Kanata, feeling the conversation isn't over. Kanata knows Yuri cares about the girls and thanks her before leaving, which makes Yuri blush. Kanata then goes to a cafe bar where the owner welcomes him. Kanata explains he's not a customer. Msora is there and asks Kanata what he's doing. Kanata is glad to see Msora as well. The owner tells Msora not to be rude to a customer, but Msora tells him to stay out of it. It turns out the owner is Msora's father. Kanata is surprised, saying the man doesn't look like him, and the father replies he resembles more the mother. Hearing this, Msora leaves angrily. Her father apologizes to Kanata, explaining their family relationship isn't perfect. Kanata sees a photo of Msora's mother and comments they look very alike. The father confesses that photo is his only memory of her. Kanata then asks why Msora is obsessed with sword magic. The father replies that in the other floating city where they used to live, they said his wife was a great sword mage, but one day she went on a mission and never came back. Since that day, the naturals, or people without powers, lost their memories of her. Msora wants to master the art of sword magic because she doesn't want to forget her mother. The scene shifts to the past, to the time when Msora's mother was alive. Whenever she returned from a mission, she was greeted by Msora, her husband, and people around congratulating her for fighting. Msora was very happy spending time with her mother, enjoying simple things like washing clothes or extraordinary things like flying through the sky together. One day, Msora's mother left for a mission as usual. Her daughter and husband wished her luck. Msora was anxiously waiting for her mother's return. She went with her father to ask if she had arrived yet. When told her mother still hadn't come back, she had a bad feeling. She went around asking people in the area if they had seen her mother, but everyone gave the same answer, that they'd never seen her mother and that she had always lived only with her father. Msora didn't understand what was happening. Just then, some guards arrived where Msora was. They were carrying her mother's sword. They told Msora that her mother had protected them from the enemy and that she is the strongest and noblest sword mage they know. That day, Msora remembered some words her mother once said, that she would protect all the citizens of the city, as well as her father and herself. Remembering this, Msora held her mother's sword and decided that she would become a celestial mage. Returning to the present, Msora is training hard but quickly falls into despair, wondering why her efforts are useless. But she remembers her mother and refuses to give up. Kanata arrives at that moment with Msora, and they go to the Hill of Hope, the place where fallen celestial mages reside. Msora thinks Kanata is the worst for getting involved in people's lives. Kanata brought Msora to this place because he heard she visited it daily. Kanata asks her to swear on her mother's grave that she will stop being a sword mage and that she will never be strong as she is now. Msora angrily tells him to stop talking like he knows everything, since when she received her mother's sword, she was given everything, even what her father doesn't remember. Msora says a traitor like him couldn't understand. Kanata asks what she thinks was the hope of the dead people in this place. Msora answers that it was to protect the people of the city. Kanata says they indeed didn't want to be forgotten, but more than that, they wanted to protect the people they love. That's what allowed them to face the demon beetles. Kanata says her mother surely thought the same. Msora replies that's obvious. However, Kanata asks if her mother's goal was to be a sword mage or to protect people as a celestial mage. Kanata tells Msora that if she remains so stubborn, her chances of dying increase, and if that happens, people will forget her. Msora is aware of this and knows she's being selfish, but she doesn't intend to give up. She wants to protect people with the magic sword she has. She also believes that if she becomes an excellent sword mage like her mother, maybe those who see her will regain memories of her mother. Kanata explains that naturally recovering lost memories has never happened before. Msora insists she will be the first. Because of Msora's determination, Kanata starts laughing and confesses he likes people like her. That's why he decided to give her advice on how to improve with the magic sword. Now that he knows how determined Msora is, Kanata plans to respond in kind, but he warns her that the path she wants to take could be worse than death. He then asks if she's really sure she wants to do this, and Msora says yes. Kanata then asks Msora to swear before her mother and the sword that she will become a better celestial mage than her mother and protect people. Msora swears without hesitation. Kanata is having lunch with Joyd. Some students, seeing Kanata, choose to sit elsewhere because they don't want to be near the traitor. Joyd is surprised at how Kanata is training the girls. At that moment, Yuri arrives. Yuri expresses that it's too soon to say such things to Kanata. She asks how Kanata can endure being hated by the entire city. Kanata ignores her and talks with Joyd about the upcoming opponents of his team, Team E571. Yuri angrily demands not to be ignored and tells Kanata his strategies are useless, his team very weak, and that they even have a traitor. Yuri also thinks everyone says there's no way Kanata's team can win. Kanata thinks that's fine, so his team won't have any extra pressure. Yuri asks if he's saying it's normal for his team to lose. Kanata asks what kind of instructor he is. Kanata replies that's not what he said, he's only referring to the fact that they have a better chance of winning. Yuri blushes hearing Kanata's words and briefly recalls a flashback of a battle where she was with Kanata. Remembering this, she tells him she hopes it's not just empty talk. After saying this, she leaves. Joy also leaves, so Kanata is left alone, but not for long as Riko soon appears. As usual, Riko begins to hallucinate that she's a goddess and that there's no one more beautiful than her. This makes Kanata laugh. He says Riko is very funny. Kanata's laughter reminds Riko of the past, when she was younger and her companions laughed at her for thinking she was a goddess and told her she'd never live up to her sister. This made Riko a little upset. She notices Kanata analyzing his upcoming opponents. Kanata mentions that if Msora and Letty complete their training, they might have a chance of winning. Riko reminds him that they have no intention of training with the him. Riko thinks a goddess like herself doesn't deserve to sweat from training, and Kanata already knew this, so he tells her to do whatever she wants. After that, Riko leaves. Meanwhile, Msora and Letty talk about how Kanata's training really works. Msora hates to admit it, but feels her skills have improved. Msora thinks at this rate they might have a chance in the next duel. Later, Msora and Letty meet with Riko. Riko wonders what they want since her goddess time is valuable. Msora is direct with Riko and asks her to join the training because she doesn't want to keep losing and doesn't want to be called the losing team anymore. To achieve that, they need to be together. Riko mentions that Letty already invited her before, and the answer is still no. With her goddess ego, she says she wouldn't gain anything from simple training. Letty says Kanata can really make them stronger. Msora hates to admit it, but she thinks the same. Riko responds that's because they're just simple mortals. Riko's answer remains no. Since Msora couldn't convince her to train, she asks at least to join the next duel. Riko replies she has no interest in humiliating herself by going to a duel she knows she'll lose. Msora pleads even on her knees. Just then, Kanata arrives, helps Msora up and asks what she's saying. Meanwhile, Chloe informs Freon Flamel that a ranked team was eliminated last night while patrolling. The cause was a Chimera that appeared. Freon Flamel says that they can't allow it to get to the city. Chloe reassures that's why the Special Operations team exists without Nirvana, meaning Chloe. Returning to Kanata, he agrees with Riko and says fighting when you know you'll lose is pretty stupid. But complaining about having no chance of success isn't Kanata's style either. Riko says he knows nothing, but Kanata tells Msora he'll give her the key to victory. Riko had a nightmare where she was chasing her sister but couldn't catch her, which made her late to school. Kanata is training Msora and tells her he'll only show her this move once and wants her to pay close attention. Kanata summons Gladius, the sword of destruction he used to wield. He launches a very powerful attack, demonstrating the battle style of the magic cannon sword, Strike Blaster, the move Kanata plans to teach her. Msora is surprised to be taught such a powerful attack. Kanata honestly tells Msora her close and long-range combat skills are those of a beginner, which is exactly why he's going to teach her this skill. Msora wonders if this is truly the key to victory. Kanata tells her greatest strength is the amount of magical power she possesses, and she must use that strength to intensify the attack. That is their only plan for victory. From the first shot, Msora is happy she succeeded, but quickly realizes that after firing the shot, the charge becomes heavy. She asks Kanata how he manages to stay steady, though Kanata looks somewhat exhausted. He informs her that this will be added to the regular magic artillery training, but Msora will only be allowed to fire 3 times a day. Msora is thoughtful since Kanata showed signs of fatigue from handling so much magic, and since she thinks Kanata used to be elite, this worries her a bit. During training with Letty, Letty attacks fiercely. However, Kanata asks what's wrong, as she doesn't seem focused. Letty wonders if she will win something like Msora did. Kanata replies no. This makes Letty a bit sad. Kanata gives her some motivation, reminds her of the training she did, and asks Letty to give it her all. On her second attack, Letty is stronger than before, even making Kanata sweat. However, Letty is disappointed because she still cannot land a hit. Despite this, Letty has improved a lot, as she can now handle both swords without looking away from the target. Letty admits she does it frantically, but it does feel more calm. While they trained, Riko just watched. She admits that Msora and Letty have improved a lot. Riko even starts wondering if studying under Kanata's tutelage, she might be able to measure up. But that thought lasts only a second, as she then thinks it's nonsense. When she looks again, Riko notices only Msora and Letty are there. She wonders where Kanata went. Kanata appears behind her. Riko asks what he's doing there. Kanata notices Riko is wearing glasses and asks if she needs her clairvoyance activated. Riko says yes, that the glasses are for that purpose. Riko is surprised and asks Kanata how he knows about her clairvoyance. Kanata responds that's the only way she can see them from the distance they are at. Riko asks if the technique Kanata taught Msora is the key to victory he has been talking about. Kanata confirms that the technique is indeed the key to victory. Riko admits that if Msora masters this skill, she would be truly formidable. However, Riko argues that the skill is useless in combat because it requires time to charge a single shot. To use it effectively, a vanguard and a rearguard are needed to protect the user. Kanata agrees and says that Riko's ability to recognize that is the team's stepping stone. Kanata praises Riko's skills in aim, analysis, high battlefield perception, and decision-making. Riko learned those skills on her own, and Kanata says they're more valuable than her clairvoyance. Riko is confused since she thought Msora was the key to victory, but Kanata says there are many keys and that each team member is a key to winning. Riko responds that Kanata didn't even force her to train or show interest in her. Kanata replies that he expected Msora and Letty to catch up to her. Kanata admits Riko's skills are excellent, or at least that's what he thinks. He confesses to Riko that he needs her for the team. Riko, surprised, asks if he's gone mad. Kanata says he knows he can train her and plan strategies, but the most important thing is the will to fight. He asks if she wants to be called a loser for the rest of her days, or if she wants to get out of this situation. The decision is hers. The next day, Msora and Letty head to training, talking about Riko and how she hasn't shown up at the team's room. They wonder if she won't attend the fight after all, but when they arrive, they're surprised to find Riko waiting to train. Both are happy to see Riko finally join the training. Kanata thinks the keys have arrived just in time. The day of the duel finally arrives. The opponents are happy it's the school's losing squad, thinking victory is assured. Msora and the others are ready for the fight. Unfortunately, at that moment, an alert starts sounding. An alert sounds warning that demon beetles are approaching the city. All teams above rank D must prepare to fight. The alarm continues throughout the city, and regular students and non-combatants must evacuate to the nearest shelter. Freon Flamel requests situation reports, which reveal that A and B groups have entered Field S, forming 7 rank A battalions. Freon orders to defend their position and sends rank E teams to assist with evacuation. Kanata, Msora, and others are helping with the evacuation. Kanata informs them that this block seems cleared. Riko asks Kanata what he's doing here, saying he is an ace. She asks who is on the front line defeating enemies. Kanata says it's complicated. Msora wonders where Letty is. Just then, Letty appears with a girl who has not yet been evacuated. Msora says they need to take her to the shelter. Kanata tells them to wait, since enemies have just arrived. Meanwhile, Chloe and Yuri are fighting. Yuri is surprised by a powerful attack Chloe just launched. Joe arrives with bad news. A battalion of evil beetles has broken through the defenses and entered the city. Freon is informed the evil beetle team has entered the city, numbering more than 300. Freon orders that students helping with the evacuation prepare for battle. The girl who was with the girls begins to cry seeing the evil beetles. Msora remembers her mother. She says she will protect everyone. She summons her sword and uses the attack Kanata taught her, easily defeating one. Msora is happy to have succeeded. Kanata admits it was a good shot. Msora is motivated and launches a more powerful shot that defeats multiple enemies instantly. The problem is the attack was so strong it caused collateral damage. Msora accidentally destroyed her father's cafe. The situation at the barracks worsens as the enemies number in the thousands. The firepower depletion is over 30%. Freon says they have no choice but to destroy their commander. Kanata and the others reunite the girl with her mother. They are happy, but there is no time to celebrate because an alert sounds at the base, confirming a Chimera is approaching near Block 24. Freon orders all interception units dispatched there, as defeating Nep's Chimera should theoretically attract all the beetles. Later, the Chimera's elimination is confirmed. However, there is no change in enemy patterns, because there is more than one Chimera. This is explained to Kanata and the girls, so to protect the city's people, they must find and eliminate the unknown Chimera. Msora wonders what to do next. Riko decides to show some of her power. They put on their glasses to use clairvoyance. Riko notices a large abnormal concentration of small beetles. Chloe, Joy, and Yuri are located where the beetles concentrate. She wonders if they shouldn't return. Chloe responds that even if they did, they can't lead all those enemies behind them. Yuri is worried because reports say there are several chimeras. Chloe replies that it's fine since Kanata is in the city center. Yuri says the traitor will be the first to flee. Chloe tells her to trust Kanata. Chloe has so much faith that Kanata won't abandon the city's people. Joy agrees. Back with Kanata, he tells the girls they need to move and that they will be the ones to defeat the Chimera. The girls have little confidence, as this is their first real battle. Even Riko thinks it's crazy. Kanata tells them they didn't train to die and reminds them they trained to survive and protect people. Kanata trusts they can do it, guaranteed as their instructor. The girls get motivated and decide to do it. Kanata and the group are ready to give everything to take back the city and skies. Shion is informed that enemies are concentrating in Block 68 and that all available forces are busy. To make matters worse, they lose communication with the base. Kanata begins the plan with the girls. The first step is for Letty to attract enemy attention with close combat, which she achieves easily. The second step is for Riko to cover Msora with long-range shots. The third step is for Msora to use her superior acceleration to get close to the enemy and destroy them with the strike blaster technique. Msora launches a good attack, but it's not enough because there are too many enemies. Realizing this, Msora launches another attack. It's still not enough, but Kanata asks her to hold on. Letty and Riko help Msora. Seeing her companions defending her motivates Msora, so she unleashes her most powerful attack. This works, or so Msora thought. Suddenly, an attack heads towards Msora. She didn't know what to do, and it seemed like the end because no one was close enough to help. However, when Msora realized, Kanata was in front of her. Kanata received the attack with his arm, saving Msora. Unfortunately, Msora was the only one who saw it, as the others couldn't see because of the rubble. A giant chimera appears, surprising the girls as they had never seen one like that before. The chimera starts firing attacks at the city, causing destruction. The situation worsens, and Kanata says this fight should have been over already. He didn't expect a monster like that to appear. Kanata has no choice but to fight. He summons his sword and tells Msora that what he's about to do is the worst example he can give as an instructor, so she must never do it. Kanata fights with all his might. He's so fast that Msora can't believe it. Kanata is fighting well, but his body is starting to suffer consequences. He knows he needs to end the fight quickly. This worries no one, because Kanata is in the monster's sights, but this is exactly what Kanata expected. He clashes powers with the monster and wins after using all his power. After launching such a powerful attack, Kanata is about to collapse as he loses consciousness. However, before he touches the ground, the girls run to try to reach him. Meanwhile, Yuri wonders how this could have happened. She says it seems like he made it. Yuri wonders who she's referring to. Chloe responds that it's obvious it's the man Yuri loves. Meanwhile, at the base, they are surprised the enemies have retreated and wonder who eliminated the unknown Chimera. When Kanata wakes up, the girls are very worried, especially Msora. Kanata tells them they worry too easily. After an epic battle, Kanata says they are now ready to win the rank matches. The day of the duel arrives. Kanata barely arrives to see it. At the entrance, he meets Yuri, who says she came to check on her students. She also mentions she thought he was guiding refugees during the attack, so she asks how he got the injury on his arm. Kanata feigns ignorance and says he probably heard it tripping while fleeing. The match begins. Kanata tells Yuri to pay attention, saying his students are now much stronger. However, in the end, as always, they lost the match. Seeing the result, Yuri asks Kanata if he really said anything about their supposed strong team. Kanata responds that things like this happen. Meanwhile, Freon goes to her supervisor to get authorization for an idea. She wants to speed up the Celestial Mage training program with more real battles. To do this, she came up with creating an academic tournament. Msora trains very motivated. Msora asks Riko if she can cover her, but Riko is more focused on admiring her own beauty than training. Msora pleads for some help, but Riko tells her to know her place. Letty is also having problems. They are so uncoordinated because Msora and Riko keep fighting. Meanwhile, Freon says Kanata's team hasn't changed. They still keep increasing their losing streak. She also asks Chloe and Yuri if they can confirm that the incident wasn't resolved by them. They respond that they didn't defeat the new Chimera. Freon tells them they probably haven't heard, but Kanata assures his team, Sexo1, were the ones who defeated the new Chimera. Kanata requested that the others take responsibility for the destruction of civilian property in exchange for the victory. Freon refused because there is no evidence or witnesses. For the sake of the other teams, Freon is considering dissolving Kanata's squad as punishment. Kanata notices the girls are in trouble since Msora and Riko keep fighting. He thinks it's time to move to the next level. Back to Freon. Chloe asks if Kanata will be relieved of his duties as an instructor. Freon replies that naturally yes. She asks if anyone has a problem with that. Yuri agrees with Freon, thinking a traitor like Kanata is not a good instructor. Freon hates to do this since Chloe recommended Kanata, but asks Chloe to bring Kanata to her office. Meanwhile, in class, Msora complains that the real problem is that no one recognizes the great battle they fought against the evil beetles. Riko thinks, leaving Msora aside, she can't believe a goddess like her went unnoticed. Kanata says no one saw them during the fight, so it's natural that happened. Msora says it wasn't natural and that Kanata was hurt by that strange power. Kanata stops Msora from saying more by covering her mouth. Kanata changes the subject and shows them a flyer for a fun event. It's a city tournament where all teams except rank S can enter. The winner will jump 2 ranks and receive special equipment made by the Alchemy Division. Additionally, the winner will get a 1-year pass for free food at any establishment in the city. Hearing about the tournament excites the girls, and they start fantasizing about winning it. Kanata asks for their opinion, and all 3 say they're willing to participate. Just then, Chloe appears looking for Kanata. Kanata asks Freon if she's fired. She says yes, and that she only managed to extend the team's losing streak. Freon also knows they were fighting during training this morning. Kanata replies that it seems she's paying too much attention to them. Freon thinks dissolving Kanata's team is the right decision and says the girls don't seem motivated after losing. Kanata doesn't respond except to say he has work to do. Freon asks what he means, and Kanata says he was assigned as their instructor and has simply been training them to be true celestial mages. Freon doesn't trust Kanata because of his traitor reputation, but admits Chloe may have recommended him. Kanata says he doesn't care about her doubts and that the only people he has to prove anything to are Msora, Riko, and Letty. Freon says those are nice words, but asks what the other teams think. Kanata asks if the others will accept them if they win the tournament she's organizing. Freon laughs. She says the tournament is open to all except rank S and is sure Kanata's group can't even defeat a rank E team. Kanata asks what if the girls win. Freon responds that if that happens, she'll forget about dissolving Team E601. While this was happening, the girls were spying behind the door but were discovered when Kanata opened it. Once they left, Riko asks what was meant by dissolving the team. Kanata tells them not to worry about that for now. Later in class, the 3 girls are very serious. Msora says it's normal after hearing the situation. Kanata asks what they plan to do. Msora responds she wants the team to be stronger and reach the top together. Letty agrees, but with her goddess ego, says she's already at the top. Still, Riko says she can play with them for a while. Kanata tells Riko she has a good attitude and advises her not to take it so seriously, just that they have to win the tournament. Msora and Letty feel insecure about this since they have 0 wins and 11 losses. Basically, a 0% win rate. Riko wonders how Kanata remains so calm knowing this. Kanata says this tournament tests all teams and that previous match results don't matter. Msora still has doubts. Kanata informs the girls that a new practice will start tomorrow and asks them to prepare. Before leaving, he mentions that the tournament pairings are also tomorrow, so they have to attend. Freon is escorting the special squad S-128 to the laboratory where they study the demon beetles. On the way, Chloe tells her she opposes the tournament being organized, believing it will only create unnecessary rivalries. When they arrive, they are greeted by a scientist who is in love with Yuri. He once had an accident with her when Yuri bumped into him and spilled his drink. Yuri tried to wipe it with a handkerchief, but the stain wouldn't come off. This act was enough for the scientist to fall in love with her. He once tried to return the handkerchief to Yuri, but found her talking with Kanata. The scientist shows them a Chimera crystal, and it's not just any crystal, it's the Chimera crystal that Kanata defeated. However, Freon still doesn't know Kanata was the one responsible for defeating that Chimera. Because this is an unknown Chimera, it was nicknamed Chimera Antares. It is also learned that this Chimera regenerates. The excited scientist comments that regeneration provides infinite samples to study. He even says this could help them create regeneration medicines, but Freon cuts him off as it's time to leave. Before leaving, the scientist tells Yuri he saw her interview the other day where she says she's only interested in men stronger than her. Yuri didn't know how to respond, but Chloe interjects, saying it seems true. The scientist is very happy to have found Yuri today, but after hearing this, they just leave. Once they're gone, the scientist takes out the handkerchief Yuri gave him and starts smelling it crazily. While walking back, Freon tells them they have now seen for themselves that the enemy is evolving, and at this rate, they will run out of resources. That is why Freon organized the tournament. Meanwhile, Joy notices Yuri acting strange and asks if she's okay. Yuri responds yes, and that she just felt unwell for a moment because of the place's air. Before parting ways with them, Freon tells Yuri there is something she needs her to do. The next day, the tournament pairings are drawn. It is E601 team's turn. Msora represents the team and feels nervous about their match. The result is E601, Block D, number 4. Realizing they will fight another rank E team, Msora feels more at ease. Riko, with her goddess ego, says she wouldn't mind fighting a higher rank. At that moment, Kanata arrives with the girls but doesn't have time to talk to her because Yuri appears. Seeing Yuri, Kanata thinks that the rank S teams won't participate in the tournament. Yuri says she won't participate but her team will. We learn that Yuri now has a team. She mentions the leader of the Celestial Mages division left her as instructor of a rank A team. Kanata doesn't take it seriously. Yuri continues boasting about her team and says it's a pity they're in different blocks. Yuri was about to say they would never face each other, but Kanata finds it interesting that their teams will meet in the final match. Kanata asks Yuri what she will do and if she's afraid to lose. Yuri responds no, angrily asking why he assumes she will lose. She asks if he thinks she has a chance to win. Yuri replies confidently that she does. Kanata then says that if Yuri's team loses, she has to join Kanata's team. Yuri says that would never happen, not in a million years. Still, she accepts the challenge, confident that Kanata's team won't get past the first round. After accepting, she leaves, but the girls are worried about what Kanata just said. They don't believe they can reach the final. Kanata explains this is what he told the division leader, and if they become champions, the team won't be dissolved. The girls are surprised since Kanata hadn't told them this information before. A student is seen running through the city at night, seemingly escaping someone. The student is caught and attacked by a mysterious hooded figure whose face is not visible. The scene shifts to 3 years earlier. A younger Yuri is watching Kanata in a duel. She thought he should give up already, believing there was no way a rank D could defeat a rank A. To Yuri's surprise, Kanata not only defeats his opponent, but also protects her from an attack that was accidentally redirected towards her. At the duel's end, Yuri couldn't believe that someone of that rank could win. Kanata approaches her and asks if she is a new student. Yuri thanks him for saving her earlier. Kanata needs to leave to prepare for the next duel, but before he goes, Yuri stops him, saying he should be properly thanked or she'd feel bad. Kanata responds that in that case, she should join them in the skies, explaining that people trust them for their protection. Kanata tells her that anyone ready to risk their life to protect others will always be welcome. After saying this, Kanata departs flying, leaving her with the impression of his words. Back in the present, Chloe is talking with Yuri and Oid about the student who was attacked. Unfortunately, the victim didn't see the attacker's face. Chloe asks Yuri what she thinks about it, but Yuri is very distracted. When she snaps out of it, Chloe explains they will have to join the city patrol. Yuri responds that they can count on her. Just then, Kanata appears. Yuri asks if he was spying. Kanata responds he was just taking a nap. Yuri asks if he wants to start a fight. Kanata says he likes it better that way. After Kanata's words, Yuri makes an excuse to leave, saying she has to go to her team's training. Riko, meanwhile, is deep in thought. Letty asks her to cover her Msora, scolds Riko for being in the middle guard, and asks her to do her job. Riko complains that being the middle guard just makes her neck hurt because she has to look forward and backward. This happens after Kanata tells them before training that he will randomly assign their roles as vanguard, middle guard, and long-range guard. Msora complains, questioning whether this method really works. Letty is curious and wants to try, expressing that Kanata's training really works. Riko also agrees without problem. But she asks Kanata if they spend time on this and end up losing, how does he plan to take responsibility? Kanata answers, he'll think about it when it happens. Msora, having no other choice, also ends up accepting. Msora is having a lot of trouble. Letty asks if she's okay. At the front line, Riko summons her weapon and begins giving instructions to Msora. She asks her to take care of some enemies that are far away. Msora complains that they're far away, but Riko replies that it's a special job only she can do. With orders being remembered, the team seems more organized. Suddenly Yuri appears with her team. Kanata, seeing them, knows they are the favorites to win the championship. Msora and the other girls, watching the other team train, realize the huge difference between them. Yuri is very proud of her team and warns Kanata to be prepared. Msora wonders if they can really defeat a team like that. Kanata tells them they must take this seriously, and if they can truly unite as a team, then the answer to defeat a team like that will appear on its own. After the training, Kanata tells Riko that she achieved a unique accomplishment today. He also thinks Riko cares the most about the other two. Riko wonders why he is telling her this. Kanata replies that she always pays attention to others and can give proper orders when needed. Kanata tells her that a girl like her, considerate, is known as a good woman. Kanata's words impact Riko, but she feigns ignorance and says saying obvious things won't make her fall in love with him. Kanata responds that he didn't ask her to do that. Later, leaving school, Kanata meets Yuri, who wants to talk with him, instructor to instructor. Kanata thinks it's a good opportunity since he also wanted to talk to Yuri. Hearing this, Yuri gets a little shy. Meanwhile, the girls are hiding behind a tree, wondering why those two are so close. Riko says she thought Kanata would go straight home but found a girl waiting for him. Letty wonders what they should do now. Msora suggests they should follow them to find any weaknesses or clues. Kanata and Yuri go to the school cafeteria to talk more calmly. At another table, the girls try to listen, but due to a misunderstanding, Letty and Riko conclude Yuri is Kanata's girlfriend. Msora feels very bad and doesn't even want to eat the cake she ordered. Back with Kanata, he asks Yuri what she wanted to talk about. Yuri responds that Kanata can start first. Kanata tells her he read this month's monthly Misogen magazine. He asks if it's true that she only likes people stronger than herself. Yuri confirms that's correct. Kanata says Yuri is free to do whatever she wants, but questions if it's a good idea to be so public. Yuri says she has nothing to hide and doesn't care anymore. Kanata says it's very important because he's worried about Yuri. He talks about the person Yuri likes, someone stronger than her. Hearing this, Yuri looks nervous. But for some reason, Kanata concludes that Yuri likes Chloe and admits he didn't think she was that way. This comment angers Yuri, who tells him that's enough and asks if he only wanted to talk about that. Kanata replies that she was the one who wanted to talk. Angry, Yuri gets straight to the point, asking Kanata to quit his job as an instructor. She also tells him that even if everyone treats him like a traitor, he still has unmatched abilities. Yuri tells Kanata he can stop wasting time on those failures he's training. Kanata asks why she hates the girls so much. Yuri responds that those failures don't belong to this school. Kanata replies that the same goes for Chloe and himself. He confesses that there was a time when Chloe couldn't fly properly and was called a failure. Kanata also defends Msora and the others, guaranteeing them as their instructor. These words make Yuri angry. Yuri says the conversation is over and leaves angrily. Meanwhile, Chloe and Joyd talk with Freon Flemmel, commenting that they discovered a pattern. All victims are celestial mages from the student division and short-range weapon users. Freon thinks it may be a coincidence. Joyd adds that the first victim was from a rank E team, the next from rank D, and last night from rank C. Following this logic, the next victim should be from rank B. While they were talking, a rank B student was being attacked. The attacker was so strong that he beat the rank B student badly. You'll be shocked when I reveal the identity of the attacker. It's none other than the scientist who is obsessed with Yuri. He believes he will soon become the man Yuri deserves, and once he achieves that goal, he will go after Yuri. In the morning, Letty wakes up early. Seeing that Msora is still sleeping, she decides to go for a run alone. To her surprise, she meets Kanata, who is also running early. Kanata asks why she's up so early. Letty tells him she goes jogging every day. Kanata thinks she needs to be more determined for Msora's sake because Letty still has some doubts. While resting, she asks if the training they're doing is really effective. Letty understands that Kanata wants to add variations to their tactics by changing roles and positions. She thinks that's impossible since Msora's skills aren't fit for the vanguard. Letty, with her short-range weapons, can't support much from the rear, which worries her. Kanata praises her for paying attention during training. He admits Msora isn't good for the vanguard. She asks if he's going to cancel the training. Kanata says no, but agrees. Letty has valid points. Kanata asks if she wants a hint, but it won't be free. She has to dress as Mike again. They go to the school cafeteria. There, Kanata tells Letty to pay close attention because lunchtime is a war. Letty realizes there are many orders to take, so she needs to work immediately. Letty works hard in the cafeteria and notices everyone there moves very fluidly. This distracts her, nearly causing a girl working there to drop an order. The girl handles the situation smoothly. Letty feels embarrassed about what happened. The girl replies, "It's okay, there's no rush, and Letty just needs to pay attention to her surroundings." This advice helped Letty a lot, and from then on she started working better. Later in training, Msora wasn't hitting any targets. Rico advised her to attract the enemies before shooting. Msora replied that it seemed Rico wasn't comfortable with her middle guard position either. Rico finished off a target to prove otherwise, and as usual they started arguing. Meanwhile, Letty felt very lonely. Kanata approached and asked what was wrong. Letty said she didn't realize the rear guard was so lonely. Kanata explained that it is. The rear guard is the last line of defense, and if she doesn't trust her vanguard and middle guard, she won't succeed. Hearing this, Letty admitted she didn't know Rico was under so much pressure, as this is usually Rico's role. Letty recalls the cafeteria and the advice to pay attention to her surroundings. She realizes she was always the vanguard, so she only paid attention to what was in front of her. Realizing this, Letty calls Msora, impressed that she can keep shooting and moving so fast. Letty doesn't think she can do the same, so she admires Msora and believes she can do even better. She advises her to control her emotions and make every shot count. Letty also calls Rico and confesses she now understands how difficult her role is. Their words motivate both girls, making their shots more accurate. Letty understands that with more accurate shots from Msora, Rico can cover her better. For a moment, Msora misses several targets, but since Letty understands her role, she takes charge. Thanks to Letty's action, Kanata approaches and says that's enough. She did a good job and is proven. This greatly pleases Letty. The next morning, Kanata meets Chloe early. Noticing her pronounced dark circles, Kanata asks what happened. Chloe confesses she has been patrolling all these nights and hasn't had enough time to sleep. Kanata knows this is because of attacks on students that have been happening, so he asks if Chloe has any idea who it could be. The only clue they have is that it only attacks men. Chloe asks him not to tell anyone this secret. Kanata asks if Yuri also patrols. Chloe says yes, Yuri patrols during the day. Just then, Msora appears, asking Kanata to stop the strange training they're doing and give them something to work on, like a special duty. Kanata says no, and that with their current level they can't help with anything. Msora at least asks him to explain what the training is for, since Rico and Letty left her curious. Seeing Msora's determination, Kanata says they'll meet in the team room, not in the skies. Chloe, seeing this scene, realizes Kanata is having a lot of fun, and says it's just like when he studied with Yuri. Kanata takes the girls to a very messy room, and they wonder what this place is. Kanata informs them that from now until the day of their match, the three of them will have to live together in this place. Kanata wants the girls to spend as much time together as possible. Msora asks what the point of this is, but since they have no choice, the first task is to clean the place. Rico goes into goddess mode and refuses to clean. Yuri was walking alone when Kanata appeared and threw a cream puff at her. Yuri asks what he wants. Kanata says he's just giving a present to the rival from the last match. Yuri asks if he really thinks she will reach the final. She asks if being optimistic is a traitor's habit. Yuri says she doesn't accept charity from traitors and is about to throw away what Kanata gave her. Kanata reminds her of the food stall in the park they went to after practice. Kanata was going to bring something for the girls, and when he saw the super special cream puff, Yuri interrupts, saying the cream puff isn't to blame. Meanwhile, in the hospital, they have a rank A student, so they must be more alert because the attacker's next target is rank S. Yuri is eating the cream puff Kanata gave her. Upon tasting it, she becomes very happy and finishes it quickly. Kanata asks if she wants another. Yuri is briefly excited, but then decides no. Yuri asks what he wants now. Kanata mentions he forgot to ask something the other day. He asks if she refuses to use the spear because he was the one who made her switch from sword to spear. Yuri blushes, which is enough of an answer for Kanata. Kanata asks if she remembers why he made her switch to the spear. He reminds her that she had a habit of retreating after clashing swords, which is fatal for a sword user. Yuri explains that during the recent beetle invasion, she had no problems with the sword. Kanata says she's stubborn, which surely helps her go far. He confesses that she was always impressive from the beginning, and there wasn't much he could teach her. Kanata also mentions he taught her something important that wasn't a technique. Yuri replies that it was never giving up, no matter what happens. Kanata thinks that as long as Yuri knows that, she'll be fine without him. Kanata also believes Yuri will soon be a great celestial mage. She asks why he says that. Kanata doesn't know exactly, he just felt it. Annoyed, Yuri says that's not a reason, and it's the same with the spear, so she asks why a traitor like him tries to help her. Kanata says it's because she is precious to him. Unfortunately, he's interrupted because the mad scientist appears. He apologizes to Yuri for making her wait, but says he has finally found her. Kanata tells Yuri she needs to know how to choose friends. Yuri says she doesn't know him and draws her sword, assuming he is the attacker causing chaos. Yuri thinks she will finish him off with one blow, but the enemy is too fast. Kanata realizes Yuri is retreating too much and still has that habit. The scientist easily knocks Yuri to the ground and says it's too soon for her to fall asleep. Yuri has to stay awake to accept his love. She gets up with difficulty, willing to keep fighting, but the power difference is huge. Yuri is shocked because the enemy used a technique called wind cut, a very advanced attack. The scientist begins spamming attacks wildly. Yuri tries to defend herself, but slowly takes damage. Yuri is down again. The scientist prepares to deliver the final blow, but Kanata intervenes. If you wonder why Kanata hadn't done anything earlier, it's because Yuri asked him not to intervene at the start of the fight. Yuri is upset and reminds him she told him to stay out of it. Kanata replies that if he hadn't intervened, she would be dead. Kanata's action annoys the scientist. He thinks his plans are being thwarted again, so he spams attacks against Kanata. However, Kanata defends effortlessly. The scientist admits Kanata might be a traitor, but he's still the famous Kronos. The scientist speeds up and attacks Kanata. Kanata stops the scientist without looking, telling him it's true, he's very fast, but that's all he has. After saying this, Kanata attacks and manages to injure the scientist's arm. Kanata explains that celestial mages put their lives on the line to perfect their skills and that a beginner like him, with just a bit of speed, can't compare. The scientist gets very angry but says that's enough for today. Before escaping, he tells Yuri he'll return with more love than ever. He then knocks out Yuri and escapes. Kanata is very worried about Yuri. Meanwhile, the scientist thinks Kanata is always getting in his way. Suddenly, he starts hearing voices in his head as the remains of this monster tell him to use them to fulfill his wish. Kanata arrives at the girls' room with Yuri unconscious in his arms. Seeing this scene, the three girls think Kanata is savage. Msora angrily asks why he brought her to their room. Riko thinks Kanata's plan is to kidnap the favorite team's members to reduce the number of rivals. At that moment, Yuri got up, very upset because she wasn't wearing clothes. She thinks Kanata was responsible, but Kanata tells her the girls did it. Still, Yuri starts crying because she thinks Kanata saw her. Kanata uses the excuse that he wants to get some fresh air and escapes. Once Kanata leaves, the girls thank Yuri because they heard she protected Kanata when the attacker appeared. Yuri doesn't deny it. Here, she learns that sometimes Kanata's training is very difficult for the girls. Yuri encourages them to keep going and confesses she also went through it. The girls ask what kind of training she had to do, but Yuri doesn't like to talk about it. Just then, Kanata returns because he forgot something. He gives Yuri an amulet he won in a milk can and mentions it is very effective. Yuri doesn't feel grateful at all for Kanata giving her the amulet and asks why he only came to give it to her. The obvious answer is that Kanata cares about her. Yuri hates that Kanata says these kinds of things, but Kanata calmly tells her that when she has problems, she should just remember what he told her. Msora can't stand this scene, so she asks Kanata to explain their living situation from now on. She wonders how they will get stronger from it. Kanata replies that he will punish the students who refuse to do what their instructor says and playfully starts playing with Msora's hair. Seeing this, Yuri doesn't feel good. She's about to leave, but before she does, Kanata asks if something is wrong. Yuri says no problem and thanks him for today. However, she tells him she will still have no mercy and that if they reach the final, that will be the end for Team E601. After this, Yuri leaves. The girls are worried about Yuri's words, knowing that if they don't win, it's the end. Msora doesn't want this to happen and doesn't want to lose the team. Meanwhile, Riko is more focused on her stomach because she's hungry. Msora gets upset because Riko isn't taking the matter seriously. Letty offers to prepare something to eat for Riko. Letty's cooking turns out incredible. Msora notices that Riko can also cook, so she wonders if she's the only useless one. The next morning, the girls train hard. Letty and Riko are doing well, but Msora can't do anything as her training is finished. That day, Msora was helping Letty cook. Unfortunately, she had an accident and accidentally cut herself. Later, Riko was explaining something to Msora, but she didn't understand. This situation makes Msora feel bad. The next day, Freon Flame gives the opening speech for the tournament. She announces that they hope to discover new strengths since the attacks from flying insects are worsening every day. In this tournament, when the squad captain falls, defeat or victory is declared. Their group will be the second fight in Block D, so they need to rest well today to be ready for their match. Msora gets upset because Letty and Rico are very carefree. She asks how they can be so calm when if they are defeated, they will lose everything. When night fell, Msora tries to think of a strategy but can't come up with anything. Rico thinks this is normal since she believes Msora can't think of any good strategies with her head. Rico suggests it'd be better if she rests a bit. Msora was about to start a fight when Letty arrives announcing a problem. The energy motor used to heat water is broken. The next day, Msora meets Kanata at the stadium, which is empty because the next fight is between two rank E squads. Kanata asks how she found living with the girls. Msora responds she only understood how useless she can be, thinking she's weak and a burden to others. Kanata advises her to stop being so tense, look around, and maybe there are things she couldn't see before. After hearing this, Msora returns to her teammates as the fight is about to start. The enemy squad laughs at them, thinking fighting the worst squad is an automatic step to the second round since they already beat them once. The fight begins. As soon as the whistle blew, Msora rushed forward to attack. She's desperate to get stronger, not just for herself, but to make her whole team stronger. Msora launches an attack, but her opponents easily dodge it. Suddenly, three girls strike back at once. It seems Msora made a huge mistake going in alone, because if she falls and touches the ground, the match is over. But at the last second, Letty and Rico appear and catch her. However, they didn't come to help out of kindness, they just tell her not to get in the way. Then Rico and Letty charge straight into battle, perfectly coordinated. Msora can't help but think she's always been a burden, and that thought breaks her spirit. But then she remembers the advice Kanata gave her before the match began. Meanwhile, Letty and Rico are doing great working together flawlessly. Their opponents start to notice how perfectly in sync the two of them are. Once again, Msora realizes how connected her teammates have become. She starts remembering everything that's happened up to this point. She used to believe that if she got stronger, everyone else would follow, but now she understands what really matters, trusting in her teammates. That's exactly what Kanata had planned all along. He made them live together so they'd learn to sense where each one would be in battle. Msora and her teammates focus on improving their coordination. Msora begins gathering a massive amount of magical energy, and with the help of Rico and Letty, she manages to land a direct hit on the enemy team. Her powerful attack completely knocks out their opponents. The official winners of the battle are Squad E601. The girls are overjoyed. It's their first victory ever. Meanwhile, the mad scientist decides to take matters into his own hands, planning to use the monster's power to become stronger. Seeing that the weakest team actually won, Freon Flomel assumes it must be a coincidence and believes they'll lose in the next match. But she's wrong. Team E601 wins again, even defeating a C-ranked team and advancing to the semifinals. Freon still insists it's just luck, but Msora and her teammates win the semifinals too, officially securing their place in the finals. This frustrates Freon to no end. While the girls can't contain their happiness, they've gone from being a team that never wins a single match to reaching a dream final. Since this is the final, Kanata thinks the real challenge is now coming. The next day at school, news spreads that if the girls don't win the final, Team S621 will be dissolved. When night falls, Letty starts reflecting. She's always been a girl wanting change, and thanks to Kanata's training, she gradually changed. That's why she wants to win tomorrow's final. For her part, Rico went to the place where she first saw Kanata, flooded with nostalgia for everything that happened since meeting him. She thinks Kanata's training has had great results. Msora remembers she was always annoyed or disagreed, but feels Kanata pushed her closer to her dream of becoming a celestial mage like her mother. Msora goes out to train a bit. Coincidentally, Letty had the same idea, and Rico also shows up there. The three, carrying many emotions about tomorrow's final, train together. Kanata watches them. He thought they might be tense, but notices they've gotten stronger. And so the morning of the final arrives, setting the stage for what's next. The atmosphere is electric. As Team E601 makes their entrance alongside Kanata, Msora is stunned by the massive crowd, and the presence of cameras only adds to the intensity. But not all the chatter is positive. Many students whisper that since this team belongs to the traitor, they must have cheated their way to the finals. Then the crowd erupts as the tournament favorites appear. It's clear everyone's backing Yuri's team, well, almost everyone. Team 601 does have 3 loyal supporters. When Yuri sees Kanata, she taunts him, saying he better run before making a fool of himself. Kanata simply recalls that if Yuri loses, she should join his team. The whistle blows, and the match begins with the favorites attacking swiftly. Letty jumps into a one-on-one with a purple-haired girl, giving it everything she's got. Suddenly, a bowman tries to assist the purple-haired girl, firing an attack at Letty. She manages to block it, but the explosion smoke leaves her exposed. Just when the purple-haired opponent thinks she's won, Rico bursts onto the scene with an attack to save Letty. They're trying to protect the ET from the crowd's perspective. It looks like Team E601 is just running away. Inside the student council, a girl predicts this will be over soon, and Fryan smiles, feeling relieved. Meanwhile, Msora is fleeing because she knows she stands no chance in a direct fight. But Msora is actually leading her opponent into a trap out of nowhere. Rico launches an attack, catching the enemy off guard. Msora thinks she's got the upper hand, but just as she moves in to strike, the opponent's weapon transforms into a sword. With no choice but to dodge, Msora hears her rival mention that instructor Yuri predicted this move. Watching the chaos, Yuri tells Kanata she understands everything because she was once a vanguard like him. She knows the weak have their own unique way of fighting, and if done right, the underdogs can defeat any opponent. That's why Yuri wanted to see how Kanata would try to catch them off guard so she could enjoy crushing his plans. Right then, Yuri shouts to her team, "We almost have her." She orders her team to deliver the final blow, boasting that this will be over soon. Kanata agrees, but wonders who will actually win. Yuri tells him to stop the act and says she's already seen through his plans. Yuri knows Kanata's team is acting on the assumption that her team underestimates them. But at the right moment, Yuri is sure Team S601 will shift the tide of the battle, and she's right. Msora catches her breath, finds her position, and stops. Lily, the leader of the favored group, thinks Msora is about to unleash her strike blaster ability. She starts firing and closing the distance to get closer and closer. Kanata tells Yuri her prediction was almost perfect, except for one detail: Msora wasn't going to shoot. Instead, noticing Lily distracted by Msora's silence, Msora attacks her with a sword. This infuriates Lily. Furiosa demands to know how Msora dares trick her. By now, Lily is too furious to control herself and charges wildly at Msora. Yuri yells at Lily to calm down, but Kanata points out she's been fooled by the pattern Msora has been following all along. It's hard to calm down after that insult. Yuri asks Kanata if it was all part of his plan. Kanata replies this encounter went exactly as he intended. He says that once you realize you've gone from hunter to prey, you've already lost. Right now, Msora is the hunter, and Lily is a wild beast out of control. Msora rises into the sky, finds her position, and this time she's ready to fire the strike blaster. Lily notices her two teammates are lined up with her, so she thinks Msora is trying to fool her again with a feint. But just as Lily is about to draw her sword, Msora fires her attack. It's so fast and powerful, the rival team can't react. Thanks to this and their teamwork, Msora, Lily, and Rico achieve the unthinkable. They win the final against the favored team. But just as the commentator is about to announce the winners, strange noises start, the signal cuts out, and the commentator's voice disappears. Suddenly, a crazy voice laughs over the mic, saying Yuri is beautiful even when she's scared. An air raid alarm starts blaring, forcing regular students and civilians to evacuate to the nearest shelter. Panic erupts as chaos breaks out among the students. A huge explosion rocks the area, and the mad scientist appears, this time without hiding his identity. He approaches Yuri, confesses his love, and claims he's now stronger than her. The girls immediately sense he's no ordinary person. Msora notices from his aura that his power is similar to an attack Kanata once used. Slowly, the scientist moves toward Yuri, asking if she's forgotten him, though he remembers her every day. Yuri vaguely recalls him. As the scientist flies to embrace her, Kanata stops him. Kanata recognizes this man as the hooded attacker from before. He kicks him hard, grabs Yuri's hand, and tries to run, but the attacker is too fast to let them escape. Kanata sends him flying again and tells Yuri to run. She hesitates, but Kanata urges her to go. The scientist launches an attack against Kanata. One of the scientist's attacks hits Kanata's foot, slowing him down. Using his incredible speed, the scientist catches Yuri and isn't planning to let her go. Yuri draws her sword to defend herself, but the scientist stops her with just one hand. He even breaks her sword. Kanata can't do much because of his injured leg. It looks like it's the end for Yuri, but just as the scientist thinks he can finally embrace her, Msora launches a powerful counterattack. The three girls stay put. Msora originally planned only a warning shot, but ended up hitting him. Msora's attack enrages the scientist so much it seems like he's doomed. Kanata is surprised the girls are still standing, and they tell him he can't fight alone. Kanata replies that he does have friends. Right then, Chloe and Joy arrive and launch an attack on the scientist. Yuri warns the scientist he still has a chance to surrender, but he starts laughing maniacally and begins to transform. His skin takes on a sinister, beetle-like appearance. The scientist traps Yuri inside a tornado, blocking Chloe and Joy's attacks. Finally, the monster captures Yuri. He's thrilled to finally have her. But the scientist notices Msora and the others are still standing, so with a single attack, he knocks them down. This infuriates Kanata, who awakens more of his hidden power, summons his sword, and prepares to fight. Kanata slices off a part of the scientist, but it quickly regenerates. They clash powers fiercely. The scientist says he understands this feeling, revealing Kanata was also chosen by the evil beetles. Kanata retorts that he feels sorry those voices control him. The scientist asks why Kanata views this power negatively. Kanata says nothing, which only confirms the scientist's suspicion. The villain explains, now he understands why Kanata became a traitor. People would freak out if they found out someone blessed by humanity's nemesis was on the special squad. Kanata angrily tells him to shut up and attack. But the monster has the advantage with extra hands. Kanata gets caught, and it looks like it's the end, as the monster prepares the final blow. Kanata calmly says his students are very capable. Then Letty appears and frees him. Riko shoots the monster's other hand to free Yuri. Kanata tells Yuri to fall back, but the monster relentlessly pursues her, trying to reach her no matter how much she moves. This time, before the monster can grab Yuri, Kanata jumps in front and is pierced by the monster. Kanata quickly falls to the ground. The scientist laughs as he slowly approaches Kanata to finish him off. Yuri is about to cry, thinking this is the end, but Msora appears, saying this fight isn't over yet. She reminds everyone that Kana is their teacher and has trained them well. Riko starts shooting at the monster to prevent it from attacking Kana. The scientist, enraged, shifts his attention to her. The girls coordinate a combined attack so Letty can strike the monster up close. Although Letty lands a hit, the monster's heart is incredibly tough. It even breaks one of Letty's weapons. The monster remains completely unfazed. Kanata thinks this situation is perfect, because the weaker the girls appear, the more careless the monster will become. Suddenly, the monster sprouts wings and flies toward the girls. Not seeing Yuri, they ask where she is. The girls show the monster where Yuri is, and he goes wild. Yuri readies herself for battle, this time wielding her spear. She attacks with everything she's got and pierces the monster. The scientist thinks it's nothing and tells Yuri not to worry, but soon he starts feeling sick. Yuri's spear attack hit him hard, causing the monster to collapse. The scientist's face is visible again, and Yuri tells him it's over. The scientist stares at Kanata, who is unable to move. Yuri urges him not to do anything, because she knows what he's thinking. But suddenly, the monster rushes to attack Kanata. Luckily, before reaching him, Yuri throws her spear, landing the final blow on the monster. After all the chaos, the case is finally closed. Yuri credits Kanata for helping defeat the monster, but Kanata insists she delivered the final hit. Kanata looks into the distance as Freon approaches. Freon asks, who defeated the enemy? Kanata makes an excuse, saying he's tired and should go to bed. After that, Kanata runs off, with the girls following closely behind. Chloe watches Kanata run off and thinks he hasn't changed at all. He always does everything alone, never takes credit, and just leaves. Frin is talking to a girl who asks if now that Squad S601 has won, Kanata will keep his promise and raise their ranks to rank C as he said. But Kanata informs the girls that this victory only covers the debts they owe for destroying the city, so this time no rank promotions will be given. Letty asks if they will at least get cool weapon rewards. Kanata says yes, which excites the girls briefly. But that happiness quickly fades when Kanata shows them the weapons they're damaged from the stadium explosion and in poor condition. The girls are sad they won but receive nothing. Kanata praises the girls for their great effort and winning the tournament. He also announces that the squad will have a new member, Yuri. The girls are stunned to see Yuri, so much so that even after the introduction, they remain silent for a moment. Kanata notices Yuri carrying a box and asks what it is. Yuri says she brought a cake. Kanata says that's perfect. Now they can celebrate the squad's victory with the cake. But Yuri suggests it's better to eat the cake when they're alone. Kanata insists it's better to share. And when he opens the cake, he finds a note saying, I love you. Yuri is deeply embarrassed that everyone saw the note. Kanata tells her he already knew about her magazine tastes and asks if the note is for Msora, Letty, or Riko. Hearing that, Yuri runs off blushing. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the scientist has returned to normal and is recovering. Msora goes to work at her father's restaurant but isn't alone. Letty is with her, and Riko continues with her shopping.